Legal sports betting begins tomorrow in Kentucky, just in time for the start of the NFL season. Now, this moment comes after years of pushing for passage of legal sports betting in Kentucky legislature. So now that it's here, what do you need to know? Well, we've asked Steve Schultz, an analyst at gamingtoday.com, to talk with us about this big change for the Commonwealth. Steve, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time today. So Kentucky is starting with in-person betting, and one of the sites is Ellis Park, that's right here in the tri-state in Henderson. Walk through the steps. If someone wants to place a bet, what do they do?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. So if you're looking to place a bet, it's pretty simple. You're just gonna go to the sportsbook and you'll make a bet. I mean, that's the slightly more in-depth version is that there'll be usually a board behind the tellers, and they'll have a list of all the bets that you can choose from. And you'll just look through which one you want to make, and you'll go and make it with the teller. If you're ever confused about what you're betting on, just ask the person behind the desk. I've never met one that wasn't incredibly helpful. And just as a general rule in gambling, if you're ever confused about what you're doing, just ask someone.
Ask somebody. Absolutely. Good advice right there. Well, can you bet on anything, like any match, game, or sport?
Anything that's not amateur sports. So
okay.
You won't be able to bet on Henderson High School.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But anything that's professional or college is
Okay. Now, the mobile app betting goes into effect a little bit later this month, September 28th. How is that going to be different?
So the only difference between mobile and retail is just where you're making the bet. It's still the same bets. It's still the same process. It's just you're going to do it from your phone or your computer instead of driving to your nearest retail sportsbook. And
you kind of have to put the money. Do you put the money into the site that you're going to? Is that what you do?
Yes, okay. Yes, exactly. So
okay.
if you pick a sportsbook that you'd like to use, you'll either have to go to a sportsbook that is partnered with them and deposit that way. But the way it's done usually is just depositing through the app itself. They have plenty of options to do it.
And it's important for folks to know that these bets will be taxed, meaning that you're going to have to pay to bet. How much of a percentage are we talking about here? Does it vary among the different sites, or is that set in Kentucky?
Okay, so the tax rates that were set in the bill are for the operators. Okay. So the tax rates that are in place through the new law are taxing operator revenue. So retail sports books will be taxed at 9.75%, and online sports books will be taxed a hair above 14%. As far as your own personal finances, if you're winning a bunch of money through sports betting, or God forbid the opposite, talk to a CPA. They're going to have the best advice. I should not be telling you what to do with your taxes.
Yeah, but just so I understand though, like if I wanted to place $10 on something, would it be $10 plus that 9 or 14% that you just talked about in order to place it?
No.
No.
No, when you make the bet, there's no tax at the point of the wager. All of that happens afterwards.
Okay, so does it cost anything to place a bet?
No.
Okay. All right, good to know. All right. Now, who monitors? Like, are there some folks that can't place bets, and how are they monitored to make sure that they don't?
Okay, so anybody that's not allowed to place a sports bet, most of them, I'd say almost all of them, are bettors that are on what's called a self-exclusion list. What that is, it's a responsible gambling measure that helps keep problem gamblers from betting on sports. So typically how this works is if you identify yourself as a problem bettor, you will self-exclude. You'll put yourself on this list, and if you're only doing business with one sportsbook, you'll put yourself on the list there. Now, the sportsbooks then send those names to the state. The state will then aggregate those names and disperse the list to all the sports books, so that somebody who is a problem bettor can't just go from one book to the next.
Gotcha. Okay. And also there's an age limit as well, correct?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Slight oversight. Yeah, you must be 18 the law says you have to be 18 to bet on sports. However, some of the operators have taken the 21 and over stance. Okay. So some sites like Caesars and MGM have come out and said that they won't be accepting any bets from anybody who isn't 21. But the law itself is 18.
Okay.
But it varies a little bit between sports books.
Okay, Steve, we are out of time, but I got one word answer for you here. I know they're talking about like 23 million, Kentucky making that much off of sports betting. Do you think that is a good number? Do you expect that to go higher, lower, or stay the same?
I think based on those projections, that should be about 2.1 billion bet in Kentucky. And when I compare that to other states of similar sizes, I think we're around that number. Okay. If it's above or below, it's not going to be by a ton. Okay, it's a good bet then. All right. Thank you, Steve Schultz, for taking the time and talk with us today with gamingtoday.com. And we have a link to your reports on our website, tristatehomepage.com. Folks can go there and check them out and get some good advice on how to make a bet in Kentucky's new sports betting. Thanks again, Steve.